Assalamualaikum and hi to Doctor and lecturers. So my name is Muhammad Aziz bin Muhammad Latif. Today our group 14 will present the evolution of Islamic public finance in Malaysia, a historical and contemporary analysis of Baitul Mal institutional adaptation. So our group consists of 5 members. First is Muhammad Aziz bin Ismadi. Second is me, Muhammad Aziz bin Muhammad Latif. Third is Muhammad Nafis bin Muhammad Ghazali. Fourth is Huang Boyu, and last is Luo Kang. So this is our table of contents where it include introduction, problem statement and research objectives, historical trajectory and establishment, institutional framework and governance in Malaysia, modern adaptation in meet social needs, critical analysis and current challenges, recommendation and the future outlook, conclusion and reference. Moving on to the introduction. What is Baitul Mal? In literal meaning, the central state treasury of the Islamic State, tasked with managing public revenue and expenditure. In theological basis, is all wealth ultimate belong to the creator and people are merely trustees of it. So, the purpose of Baitul Mal is as house of wealth, is to circulate resource fairly, prevent wealth concentration, and meet the basic needs of every citizens. So, in the earliest development of Baitul Mal, first of all, starting from Prophet Muhammad SAW era, no physical treasury yet, but have charity and aims distribute immediately, often from the mosque courtyard to relieve poverty fast. Second is Khalifah Abu Bakar. A more centralized approach begin funds still move quickly to avoid hoarding of state of wealth. And lastly, moving towards to the Khalifah Umar ibn al-Khattab. Through institutionalization, where a formal registry, a dedicated treasury built and provincial treasuries across Persia to North Africa. Under Khalifah Umar's institutional model, Baitul Mal evolved from a simple repository into a sophisticated financial institution where funding infrastructures, paying officials, and acting as early social security system for widows, orphans, and the disabled. First of all, there are a few features that under Baitul Mal, such as zakat, where strictly regulated obligatory aims were a religious duty on eligible wealth. Second, Kharaj, lands tax level on productive agricultural. Next is Jizya, where protection tax level on non-Muslim citizen of the state. And lastly is Ush or Tetas, agricultural Tetas collected from farmers and traders. Last for the introductions were how the Baitumal concepts arrival in the Malaysia world and local adaptations. First of all, it came from maritime trade as the bridge. Arab and Indian Muslims traders brought Islam religion with the governance, commercial law, and economic justice to the Malay Peninsula. Local rules adopt these models, blending them with existing custom and indigenous traditions. Then, the treasure concept resonates with the communal cooperative nature of traditional Malay society. Therefore, main function and roles for the Baitul Mal concept in the Malaysian land, first of all, to collect agriculture titles from localized farmers. Second, administers religious endowments. And lastly, support religious scholars and the destitute in the community.
Next, we will move to the problem statement and the research objective of our title. So we move to the classical disconnect and legal gaps first, which is consists of two. The first one is a sovereign disconnect. In classical Islamic public finance, the Baitul Mal operated as the central treasury of the Islamic State, serving as a powerful macroeconomic engine for wealth distribution and infrastructure. Modernly, it has drifted from this mandate. In Malaysia, it has faced a major disconnect, shifting from a proactive engine of development to a passive custodian of estate residuals. The second one is constitutional dualism. The Malaysian constitutional framework imposes unique hurdles. Under Schedule 9 of the Federal Constitution, Islamic affairs remain the sole prerogative of the states. Consequently, Malaysia has no centralized federal Baitul Mal. Rather, its administration is fragmented across 15 decentralized state authorities under individual state Islamic religious councils known as MAIN. We'll move to the governance and technological lags. So, the governance gaps and trust, unlike standard Islamic financial institutions overseen directly by Bank Negara Malaysia, the Baitul Mal lacks a single centralized federal regulator. This absence of unified supervision yields significant interstate gaps in accounting standards, audit protocols, and asset management velocity, often breeding public skepticism regarding fund disbursements. And the next one is the digitization bottleneck. In today's digital economy, public trust relies heavily on operational transparency. Currently, the rate of digital transformation and financial technology, known as fintech, adoption varies dramatically among councils. Failing to unify state systems with modern cryptographic tracking tools like blockchain leads to underutilized communal assets and public skepticism. So next is the four core research objectives. So our objective one is historical mapping, which is trace the historical trajectory and establishment of Baitul Mal, tracking its transition from classical treasuries to modern Malaysia. The second objective is legal analysis, analyze the legal and constitutional frameworks governing the decentralized operations of Baitul Mal across state councils. The third objective is operational auditing, critically evaluate current operational challenges including public trust, auditing transparently, and federal-state dichotomies. And the fourth objective, which is the last objective, is modern adaptation. Assess contemporary strategies utilized by the institution, evaluating digital finance tools and socio-economic welfare efforts. So, based on our research, we have our primary research questions. The first one is the evolutionary mandate. How has the historical trajectory of Baitul Mal structurally shaped its contemporary mandate and the institutional limitations within modern Malaysia? The next is structural obstacles. What are the key institutional and public perception bottlenecks preventing Baitul Mal from optimizing its socio-economic capacity? And the third one is legislative impacts. In what ways do state level enactments and federal constitutional boundaries impact the operational uniformity of state main councils? And the last one is digital integration. How successfully has the modern Baitul Mal integrated digital financial tools, fintech, and micro welfare programs to meet contemporary needs?
Moving on historical trajectory and establishment, during 5th century Golden Age, Malacca was both a global hub for maritime trade and major center of Islamic scholarship. A function central treasury operate on classical principle, even if the term Maitumal wasn't widely used in every record. First, the Malacca Sultanate, a functional trajectory. The Sultan's rule is ultimately political authority, supreme defender of the Islamic faith. So, from that, the revenue source of the treasury that similarity to Baitumal is structure port taxes, international trade levels, mandatory aims from wealth merchant and subjects. So, how wealth been used during that day is that first to construct grand mosques, second is to stipend for royal religious scholars, and aids for the poor and traveling merchants. After that, when the colonial rules come in Malay, it's become more split. First, it civils and religious splits. Colonial rules separate civil economic administration from religious affair, dismantling the holistic Islamic state apparatus. Power absorbed by colonial capitals. Therefore, control of state revenue, land management, and economic development moved entirely to the secular colonial administration. And lastly, Islamic funds marginalized, where treasury management was confined to the private sphere. Religious aim and endowment devolved into informal localization practice. So this is the trajectory historical path of our models currently, starting with the independence in 1950. 1957, where nation achieved independence. The target begins of uniting states under one federal system while respecting the religion. Now, Islamic as federal religion. Federal constitution makes Islam the official religion but places jurisdiction over Islamic affairs firmly with each state. Then state religious councils where state enhancements create the Majlis Agama Islam Negeri (MAIN), formally re-establishing Baitul Mal as a legal entity. Then after post 1957 and onwards, professional modernizations where council adopt and modern accounting and governance, expanding into cash trust, real estate, and religious endowment.
Next, I will talk about how benchmark is managed in Malaysia. Unlike the early Islamic empire, Malaysia does not have one central benchmark. Instead, it uses a decentralized system. This means each state has its own benchmark to serve its local Muslim community. Why is it like this? The main reason is Malaysia's federal constitution. According to Schedule 9, Islamic affairs are managed by the state government, not a federal government. So every state is responsible for its own Islamic affairs. The stand or state rule is head of Islamic affairs, where the daily work is handled by the State Islamic Religious Council, or MIN. MIN has many responsibilities. It manages Islamic property, make sure zakat and other funds are collected properly, and ensures money is distributed fairly according to Islamic law. Besides that, each state also has its own administration of Islamic law enactment. Although the rules may be a little different among one state to another, they all have the same purpose, which is to make sure Bantamar is managed in a legal, fair, and organized way. Now let's move on to the main sources of income for Bantamar. The most important source is zakat. It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So eligible Muslims are required to pay it as part of their religious duty. Today, zakat is collected not only from farming, but also from salaries, business income, savings, and investments. After that, the money is given to people who need help, such as poor, orphans, widows, and other eligible groups. Another important source is waqf. Waqf means people donate land, buildings, or other assets for religious or charity purposes. These assets are not sold. Instead, the income they guarantee is used to support schools, hospitals, mosques, and